let's get right into it. Movies of the month for November. What was the best thing we watched, in your opinion?
As if you even have to ask. The green lights behind my head didn't tell you. It is Wicked.
Easily?
Easily.
Is it a movie that you've been thinking about every day since? Because that is my sign of, oh, that was a good movie.
I think about it. I watch TikToks about it. The soundtrack comes up on Spotify. I said that weird. Well, I was going to say shuffle on Spotify.
Shuffle on Spotify.
Spotify.
Hey, you got that internet radio on your phone?
Popular's been coming on Gracie Abrams' radio. So I have been listening to Popular.
So is it the Popular from the movie or the Popular from the musical?
The movie. I think about Holding Space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity about once a day. I want to go see it again. I tell other people to go see it. I ask people if they've seen it. So yeah, it does consume a lot of my brain power.
That is something I felt. I've rarely leave a movie and think about it so much that I want to go see it again. And I do want to go see this movie again. And it is a 2 hour, 20, almost 2.5 hour movie.
No, it's 2:40.
10 minutes of credits. I timed that movie.
Oh my gosh.
It timed out to 2:30.
He does time every movie.
Yeah,
you time a lot of things.
Oh yeah, for the most part, when you see a movie time, you can cut off 10 minutes. But the problem is, it never starts on that time. And I hate it for some people who don't know that, and you get there so early, because at least at Regal, it's 30 minutes. Now they do 10 minutes of just raw commercials and then 20 minutes of previews.
It's just weird, the commercials
they're
doing now.
I'm already paying to go see a movie in theaters. I don't need to see normal commercials. I feel like that is why are we doing this? That's going to take somebody who doesn't come to the movies that often and kind of ruin that experience. I don't want to be advertised to here. The movies, yeah, that's fine. More trailers so you come back and watch another movie. But I don't want to see a commercial for a car when I'm at the movies. But I have really been wanting to go see Wicked again because I feel like there's a lot of details now that I missed. And like you mentioned, seeing things on TikTok about it and seeing more people dive into it. I still haven't been exposed to any spoilers.
It's not spoilers.
But
I
don't want to know.
As a musical for 21 years.
I know, but at this point in my life, I do not want to know what is going to happen in part 2.
But what if we go to New York and we see it on Broadway?
That's different because I feel they're going to make the movie a little bit different from the musical. And I feel like if people have seen the musical before, it's like reading the book. You know they're going to have some differences between the two, and I think that's a little bit more fun.
Okay, but I have seen people reading the Wicked book, and if anyone's trying to read it, it is a very dark book. I've heard. Dark, explicit. It's not, whimsical, so be warned.
Yeah, it goes into some pretty, interesting details about Elphaba that I don't think a kid would want to read.
Yeah, don't pick up the Wicked book thinking you're about to read something fun. Read it if you want to, but at your own discretion.
I did go back, and I rewatched The Wizard of Oz.
When?
Last weekend.
Without me?
Yeah, I'll rewatch it again. I'll watch that movie every day. I love it that much.
That?
Saturday morning. I just started it.
That's so rude.
How is it rude watching a movie we've both seen? It's not like I
wanted to rewatch it.
And I'll rewatch it again. We've both already seen it.
Okay.
It's not like I started a show without you.
It's rude to rewatch a movie on a Saturday morning when you know I sleep till noon.
I had a lot of I watched 2 other movies in that time, so I was like, okay, I'll watch this one now. It's surprisingly shorter than I remember. I mean, it's like an hour and a half. So it's a quick watch, but I did some research on that because Warner Brothers owns the rights to Wizard of Oz, and it's not public domain until 2035. So that leads me to believe that they are building up towards remaking The Wizard of Oz, because once it's public domain, it's free game for people to make it. I don't know if you can rebuy the rights to have it reset for another 100 years, but I feel that building towards a whole world.
So they would remake it to keep the rights?
I think so. Or at least remake it, make the money off of it, and then it goes into the public domain. So you kind of have to cash in on it while it's still completely yours that you own it.
Interesting.
And I feel like that would work because at the level of detail that they put into Wicked 1, and they filmed 1 and 2 at the same time, so it's going to have that same production value. I feel like that next step is remaking it. I think that'll be a little bit more controversial because it is such a classic. There have been sequels to it. There have been other prequels to it, the James Franco movie. I feel like some people will have kind of hesitation more on that one than the Wicked movie, but it's so old. A 1930s movie to be upset about remaking that. I think at the level that you could make the movie now, it would greatly benefit from it if they make it the same way they made Wicked Part 1 and 2.
I mean, we could make it without, giving everyone cancer from the paint and
Yeah.
asbestos.
Hopefully it's a much better experience.
Et cetera, et cetera.
But who do you think should play Dorothy in a remaking of The Wizard of Oz? I started thinking about that. Like, who kind of fits?
Advance warning about thinking about this. You put me on the spot right now. Okay.
I feel like you would have somebody in mind because you really don't have to be. I mean, Judy Garland could sing, but I almost feel at this point you don't have to be a singer. You could have, because I think that's kind of hard to find somebody at the level of like
Sabrina Carpenter.
To her be Dorothy?
Dye her hair brown.
I was thinking like a Daisy Ridley. Like
you're just gonna pick one of the Daisies for everything right now. Either Daisy Edgar Jones or Daisy Ridley.
I just feel like you need somebody who already has like the hair.
But I don't see Daisy Ridley in a whimsical musical.
Maybe she's a little bit too old for that role.
Daisy Edgar Jones. Actually, because when she was doing the Twisters press tour, everyone was like, "What's one thing people don't know about you?" And she's like, "I'm quite silly." And she's like in her mid-20s. I can see Daisy Edgar Jones.
I'll go with my other Daisy, my backup Daisy.
Which we did rewatch Twisters on Thanksgiving.
That we did. We blew up the air mattress and rewatched that movie.
Great experience. Sometimes being an adult's fun. Like, you just blew up the air mattress. We made a cookie cake.
Yeah, there's nobody who can tell you not to. That was always something I wanted to do as a kid, like blow up an air mattress or create like a pillow fort and watch movies in. I never did it. Now I've done it. It's fun.
It's great.
My best of the month for
I wasn't done talking about Wicked.
Oh, you got more? You're like, whoa.
You didn't even let me finish. You sidetracked on the remaking of The Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Even if, and we did the review of Wicked already. We did that after we saw it. Even if you're not a musical person, a theater person, go see it. It's so well done. I know people are like, this press tour they've done is wild. And I do admit it is strange to watch them cry in every interview. But you know what? They're proud of their work. It was an experience, and I think they both should be proud of it because they're both phenomenal in it. And I think it's just so good. And even if you're like, wow, 2.5 hours, it doesn't feel like it. Unlike another movie we're going to talk about. So yeah, go see Wicked.
Am I good now?
Yes.
All right. For my best of the month, I'm going with A Real Pain, which was a story with Kieran Culkin.
You said it right this time.
Okay, making sure. And Jesse Eisenberg. And I feel like that movie really hit me on an emotional level that I wasn't quite expecting.
TikTok about that made me really sad.
That I feel like Jesse Eisenberg's character in the movie?
Yeah.
Why did it make you sad?
Because you looked sad while talking.
I didn't realize how emotional I was in that.
You looked so sad. You came home and I was like, do you need a hug?
And I'm like, why? See, sometimes when I do reviews, I just like, I have to go off raw emotion. That is how I base a lot of my reviews. And that one, we left the theater and I felt weird that something was so oddly specific to me in a movie about just like my personality and stuff I've been like dealing with like my whole life. And I think when I sat down to record that review, I was like, this is going to kind of feel like a therapy session because it's stuff I've talked to you about that and maybe not in that explicit way just because I just thought that was something that only I dealt with. But seeing somebody else go through that, of just that feeling of like wanting to be more outgoing, wanting to connect with people more. And I was like, man, this movie just hit me. And I didn't really know what that movie was going to be about their entire journey of like being close and then kind of being estranged, going back for a really dark reason after their grandma died. And then you have all the other emotions mixed in with why they're there, going to that concentration camp. It's just like, man, where is this movie going? But there's also like some fun moments in it, some really good bonding moments, and I think
the cast of characters was really
good. And it's like a really unique just blend of people, and it doesn't feel like a traditional movie in the sense that it's not like a this happens, therefore this happens, therefore this happens. Here's the rising act, here's the fall. It doesn't really follow that. It just felt like a movie about life, and I enjoy those movies every now and then. Just a nice little slice of life that you go through something from beginning to end. It's not so much that you follow this character's journey and they accomplish something amazing. It's just like you feel all these things. And I just thought the direction in that movie was great. And I've become more of a Kieran Culkin fan, I guess, through that movie. We never watched Succession. I don't feel like we could jump into that and enjoy it.
No, I know what happens. I read all the spoilers.
Yeah, whenever a finale airs and it's like fair game to talk about it, and I get a series finale is like a big newsworthy event, and I feel like that journey of that show would still be enjoyable because it is a good show, at least according to what everybody has said who has watched that show, but I don't know if I'm invested in that much dialogue.
I have too many shows that I'm invested in that I can't invest in another long term. I got to get through all the seasons of Summer House. Can't watch Succession.
But that was my best. What did you rate Wicked again? You gave it a 5 out of 5?
I think so.
I think you gave it a 5 out of 5 when we did it because I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 because it was split into 2.
That's right.
For A Real Pain, I gave that one a 4.5 out of 5. And so far for the year, I have not given out a 5 out of 5.
I loved A Real Pain. I would also say, like, you would categorize me, you knowing me, as someone who's outgoing. I'm an introvert, but I can strike up a conversation. I can make friends at the post office.
I think that, I mean, that's why you make me better, is because you are the one who can talk to people and connect with people, and you make me more normal, because without you, I'm just like the isolated, here's this dude not saying anything.
But I will say I once had a boss, among all the other insults she gave me, she told me I was socially awkward.
That is bizarre.
But I'm just saying, so like even someone saw me as that. So it's like we all have a little bit of socially awkwardness in us. Yeah.
Is it all perspective?
The other insult she gave me that I loved was it was a like informal setting, so I could wear like shorts and a t-shirt in the summer. I wore a dress one time and she was like, "Oh, you're so much skinnier when you're not hiding behind pants and shorts." And I was like, "Oh." Okay. A little backhanded compliment there. Yeah, and she also told me I was socially awkward.
Yeah, that's bizarre. That's not true whatsoever. I'm socially awkward.
Not as much as you think. You're just in your head about it.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're less socially awkward than you think. You just, when you are thinking, you're overthinking. So you just need to stop thinking.
I just live inside that head, though. All right, for the worst of November, what do you have?
Are you not entertained? No, I was not entertained by Gladiator 2.
Okay, I'm going to do this in the movie review coming up, so I will say nothing, and I will let you go why you hated Gladiator
I don't want to give any
2.
spoilers, but there was just some really stupid CGI.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love movies from that time.
Period pieces, over history, just make less money.
Yeah, I don't like bloody gore. I'm not big into like a severed head.
Which is kind of Ridley Scott's calling card.
Yes.
That's the same
Did he
reason.
do Napoleon?
Yeah, that's why he didn't like it. It's
All
over the top, like just blood and guts and like the real visceral sound of like a blade going in.
And I watch medical shows. I watch all those things.
So it's the violence. Is it the violence more so than the gore?
It's the violence, yeah.
Because I've seen some of the medical shows you watch. There's like blood oozing out. Where I was surprised.
That doesn't bother me.
I'm like, hey, that's cool.
That doesn't bother me.
I didn't know you liked this stuff.
It's the like someone coming at someone and like the slicing of the head.
So
or
you would
the,
have hated Game of Thrones.
Or the bayonet and then they pull it out and the sound effect. Ugh. Yeah, I just wasn't into that. The plot line was kind of like up, down. Thought we had something coming, and then it's like I could have seen that from a mile away.
So predictable.
Yeah, the Joseph Quinn's eye makeup, the smoky eye, really intense. I mean, that was distracting.
His paleness too. He was
the paleness with the smoky eye.
That was like a history thing, right? Where they would like put makeup on to make themselves pale because that showed you had money or something.
Yeah, and they were probably using like real like things of charcoal, just paint that on. Yeah, I didn't go into it thinking I was going to love it, but I was like, we got to see all the blockbusters. So I went to see it.
Did you at least like Denzel Washington's character or his acting?
I liked Paul Mescal.
Yeah.
I thought Paul Mescal was great.
Did you think it was convincing?
Yeah. He's also very attractive. He got very in shape for that movie.
That's what I was surprised by.
I'm excited to watch him on SNL this week, and it will have already aired by the time this comes out, but I'm excited to see that. Him and Shabuzi. It's a good lineup.
For my worst of November, I am going to say Here with Tom Hanks. Speaking of bad CGI, that was some bad special effects. They had to de-age him to be a teenager, and I think the de-aging just isn't quite there yet.
Yeah, maybe if you're de-aging someone a little younger. No disrespect, Mr. Hanks. Big fan. Lovely man in person.
But to go from being in your late 60s to being a teenager, that's rough. Like, that just doesn't look very good. He looked like his character did in The Polar Express. which same director, by the way, Robert Zemeckis. But he looked like that.
That's one we haven't rewatched at Christmas time in any of the years.
Polar Express?
We've never rewatched that.
I think I've only seen it maybe once. That was when that technology was that type of 3D animation they used was so new that it looks so bad for now. Maybe at the time it looked good. But that used to be my favorite thing as a kid. I think in like first or second grade, we would read the book and we'd all get to dress in pajamas to school. That was my favorite. I remember us all going down the hall in our PJs. And I think at that time I was still into Thomas the Tank Engine. So I had like Thomas the Tank Engine slippers. Or at least I kept them from kindergarten if it was first grade.
You were in a Thomas the Tank Engine phase for a while. Yeah. Your mom has stories about that.
That was my jam. I couldn't leave the house without watching it.
No, your mom always talks about how she'd be like, all right, Mikey, we have to go to the grocery store. And you'd be like, no.
No, I'm not going. I'm going to watch Thomas the Tank Engine. But yes, aside from the CGI, it was just the most mid movie I've seen all year for the level of talent on the acting side and for the level of talent behind the camera. And it didn't really shape up until the end of the movie, and by then it was just kind of late. And I know you wanted to see that movie, and you were like, oh, you're going to go see it without me?
To be really honest, I kept forgetting the title of it. So when you
said... Oh, it's a horrible title.
So when you said you were saying Here, I was in Denver that weekend, and I was just like, oh, a horror movie. And then I was like, oh, it's that one. It was one of those And then the other night, my mom texted me, and she's like, I'm watching Here. Same thing. I was like, scary movie? And then she was like, love Tom Hanks. And I was like, oh, that movie. So yeah,
it's a bad title.
Kept forgetting that was the title of the
film. It's
film.
also a homonym. So it's like, is it here? Like you can listen, or is it here? Like right here?
Ooh, big vocab word.
I think I remember that from like a Dr. Seuss book or something.
Love a homonym.
But yeah, everything about it was so like, what was the even purpose of this? And they do this thing because it all takes place in the same piece of land over history, like starting back from like the dinosaur age all the way till like 2020 past. I think it ends.
The dinosaur age?
Yeah, like back in, like, it just shows like a sliver of land. You see dinosaurs roaming the earth, and then you see the Revolutionary War, all that stuff, and then it all just keeps going, stays the same camera angle the entire time, which was like the big, like, oh, this is interesting. It's gonna force you to look at just right here. And they kept emphasizing, we grew up here, we did all this stuff here, it all happened here. But there was all this backstory that it was just kind of pointless, like showing you these different plot lines of these different people who lived on the same plot of land that really went nowhere, that had no emotional development. And it was just like, why am I here? Why am I in this theater? And that was also one where I got tickets kind of later. So I had to sit at like the very top row, and I was like all the way behind. And I was like, I'm not enjoying this whatsoever.
I'm glad I didn't sit through that one.
So that is my worst of the month. The other movies we watched, Here was the first one. So Real Pain, Wicked Part 1, Blitz. That almost made one of my favorites of the month as well.
So good.
Which was a movie that you wanted to watch because it's World War II.
Duh.
And you will watch any movie World War II, any TV show, read any book.
Yes.
I think the issue I have when it comes to TV shows or movies about it is they always kind of feel the same because they're always sad. And this one, I mean, obviously, it's World War II. It's going to be sad. But it's not the sad you're expecting, and it's because it follows this kid and his journey of just trying to get back home and be reunited with his mom. Was it based on a true story?
I don't know if their story was true, but parents in London sending their kids like to the countryside and other parts of Europe is true. They would send a lot of them to America, and they'd live with like host families. Read several books about that.
So inspired by true events.
Yes,
which it works the same way. It doesn't take anything away from the emotional impact of it.
I'm sure it's a little unbelievable, so I don't feel like.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's also a lot of stories that come out of World War II of people doing things, and you're like,
you wouldn't believe.
All the stories I read about people that lived in like Poland and lived in the literal sewers. Didn't think that was true, but it is.
Yeah, very cinematic. I really enjoyed that one.
Saoirse Ronan was great.
That one's on Apple TV Plus, so you can watch that one for free. Saw Gladiator 2. We saw the Christmas movie Our Little Secret. Should we wait to talk about Christmas movies for another episode?
I mean, I can just say I loved it.
You loved it.
It was cute. It was the best one Netflix has done so far this year. I have not watched the one where Chad Michael Murray is an exotic dancer.
That's a Christmas movie?
Dancer, yeah. I think I've heard he's one of my friends at work called it a clean stripper. I can't take Chad Michael Murray seriously in the year 2024. 2003 is Lucas Scott? Sure. Heartthrob. 2024, when he's like still trying to be relevant, it's so cringy.
Yeah, I saw him do that one interview where he's like, name one actor who has never fallen off. Like every actor falls off at some point, and you could just tell it was coming from like a very emotional place that he struggles with. And I was like, well, Leonardo DiCaprio has never fallen off. Robert De Niro, Jennifer Lawrence, Denzel Washington. Yeah, there's a lot of actors.
Bradley Cooper.
Off. Yeah. So
Kate Winslet.
I just feel like he was like, I gotta make something up.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed Our Little Secret. Lindsay Lohan, greatest comeback of all time. I love it for her.